Sarah Chen wiped the condensation from her helmet visor, her breath creating small clouds in the frigid air of her maintenance pod. The emptiness of deep space stretched before her, punctuated only by the distant gleam of stars and the hulking mass of Outpost Sierra 7, where she'd spent the last 3 years keeping the aging station's systems operational. "Chen, you've got another 2 hours of oxygen," the comms crackled with Station Director Morrison's voice. "Just patch the micrometeorite damage and get back inside." "Copy that," Sarah responded, her experienced hands already working the nanofiber sealant into the station's outer hull. At 32, she was the youngest chief engineer in the Frontier Station network, but her reputation for solving impossible mechanical problems had earned her this posting at humanity's furthest outpost. The repair work was routine until her pod's sensors picked up an anomalous energy signature. Sarah checked the reading twice, then a third time. According to the instruments, something massive was generating a faint power signal about 20 kilometers from the station, but it wasn't visible to the naked eye. "Director, I'm picking up something unusual," Sarah reported, already plotting a course. "Request permission to investigate." "Negative, Chen. We're not authorized for exploration missions." Sarah's fingers hovered over the pod's controls. In 3 years, she'd never disobeyed a direct order, but something about this reading felt different. "Sir, it could be a damaged vessel. We have a duty to investigate potential distress signals." The silence that followed told her Morrison was weighing the same regulations she'd just cited. Finally, he sighed. "You have 40 minutes. After that, I'm logging this as an unauthorized departure." Sarah's pod glided through the void, its small engines pushing her toward the mysterious signal. As she drew closer, her sensors began painting a clearer picture. The energy signature was coming from something massive, at least 3 times the size of a Frontier-class station. 17 minutes later, she saw it. The vessel materialized like a mirage, its hull seemingly absorbing the starlight around it. It was unlike anything humanity had ever built. The ship's design defied conventional engineering. Organic curves blended seamlessly with geometric patterns, creating a structure that looked more grown than constructed. "Director, are you seeing this?" Sarah transmitted her pod's video feed back to the station. "My God," Morrison whispered. "Chen, maintain distance and wait for." The transmission cut off as Sarah's pod passed through some kind of energy field. Her instruments flickered, then stabilized, but the comms remained dead. She should have retreated, should have waited for backup, but the engineer in her couldn't resist the mystery before her. The alien vessel's hull was covered in what appeared to be sensory nodes, each one dark and dormant. As Sarah maneuvered closer, she noticed what looked like an entrance, a hexagonal portal large enough for her pod to pass through. "Well," she muttered to herself, "I didn't come all this way just to take pictures." Sarah guided her pod into the opening, which led to a vast chamber that might have been a hangar bay. The moment her pod crossed the threshold, lines of soft blue light began pulsing along the walls, as if the ship was awakening to her presence. She docked her pod against what seemed to be an airlock and ran atmospheric tests. To her surprise, the ship maintained a breathable atmosphere, though the temperature was well below human comfort levels. Sarah double-checked her suit's integrity and cycled through the airlock. The interior of the vessel was a maze of corridors that seemed to shift and change as she moved through them. Not physically. The structure remained stable, but the patterns of light and shadow created an almost living quality to the architecture. Her suit's sensors detected no immediate threats, but they also couldn't penetrate more than a few meters into the ship's structure. As she moved deeper into the vessel, Sarah began to notice something odd. The ship's systems seemed to respond to her presence, but not in a way that suggested automated protocols. It was more like curiosity. Panels would illuminate as she passed, doors would open before she reached them, and the temperature in each section she entered gradually rose to human comfortable levels. 3 corridors in, she found the first body. It was suspended in what appeared to be a crystalline chamber, its form humanoid but distinctly alien. The being had 4 arms, iridescent skin, and a cranial structure that housed what she guessed were sensory organs. But most surprisingly, according to her instruments, it was alive. Sarah approached the crystal chamber, her heart pounding. The surface responded to her proximity, becoming transparent enough for her to see dozens more chambers behind it, each containing a similar being. A sleeper ship, she breathed, understanding dawning. They're in stasis. As if responding to her words, a holographic interface materialized beside the chamber. Symbols and patterns danced in the air, incomprehensible yet somehow familiar. Without thinking, Sarah reached out to touch one of the glowing symbols. The ship shuddered. Warning lights flashed through the corridors as the vessel's systems surged to life. Sarah stumbled back as the crystal chamber before her began to pulse with energy. The alien inside stirred, its 4 arms moving for what might have been the first time in centuries. "Oh hell," Sarah muttered, reaching for her comm unit even though she knew it was useless. "What did I just do?" The crystal chamber began to dissolve, its structure breaking down into particles that disappeared into the ship's atmospheric processors. The alien's eyes opened, all 4 of them, and focused directly on Sarah. It spoke, not in words, but in patterns of light that danced across its skin. To Sarah's astonishment, she felt meaning forming in her mind, as if the ship itself was translating. "Guardian, you have awakened us." Sarah swallowed hard. I'm not a guardian. My name is Sarah Chen. I'm a human mechanic from Outpost Sierra 7. The alien's skin flickered with new patterns. "The Guardians are gone. Their directive was to find worthy successors. You have passed their first test. Your biosignature activated our systems. You are what they sought." Before Sarah could process this, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. New patterns of light raced along the walls, and the alien skin flashed with urgent pulses. "They have found us. The hunters. You must complete the awakening sequence. All must rise before they arrive." "Who are the hunters?" Sarah asked, but she already knew she wouldn't like the answer. "Those who drove us into this sleep. Those who devoured worlds. They have hunted us across galaxies, destroying all in their path. The Guardians sacrificed themselves to hide us, to wait for those who could help us fight." Through the ship's hull, Sarah heard the distant sound of something massive dropping out of faster-than-light travel. The alien skin pulsed with recognition and fear. "They are here. You must choose now, Sarah Chen. Run and hide, as so many have before, or stand with us and face what comes." Sarah looked at the hundreds of stasis chambers, at the lives suspended within them. She thought about the outpost, about humanity's fragile expansion into the stars. Whatever was coming, whatever these hunters were, they wouldn't stop with this ship. She turned back to the alien, her decision made. "Show me what I need to do." The ship's lights pulsed with approval, and Sarah Chen, human mechanic, began the work that would change the course of 2 civilizations forever. Sarah's hands moved across the holographic interface with growing confidence. The ship, which she now knew was called the Luminarch, had begun interfacing directly with her neural patterns, making its alien technology increasingly intuitive to use. The first alien she'd awakened, who called itself Vexna, worked alongside her as more stasis chambers activated. "The Hunter's vessel will breach our defensive perimeter in 17 minutes. Vexna communicated through its bioluminescent patterns. The ship's translation matrix now conveyed not just words but subtle emotional undertones. We must awaken the Defense Council." "How many are we waking up?" Sarah asked, her fingers dancing through complicated awakening sequences. Already, 30 of the crystalline chambers had dissolved, their occupants being tended to by their newly awakened kin. 243 of our people survived to enter stasis. Vexna responded. "The council consists of our 7 most experienced military and scientific minds. They must be awakened as a unit." Sarah nodded, sweat beading on her forehead, despite her suit's temperature regulation. The complexity of managing multiple simultaneous revival sequences was straining both her and the ship's systems. And these hunters, what exactly are we dealing with? The answer came not from Vexna, but from a newly awakened being emerging from a larger crystalline chamber. Its skin rippled with deep crimson patterns, and unlike the others, it bore distinct markings that seemed to denote rank or status. "They are the end of all things," the newcomer communicated, its patterns sharp and intense. "I am Val Wren, lead tactician of the Defense Council. The Hunters are a species that believes evolution requires conflict. They seed young civilizations with technological gifts, then return to test them. Those who fail are consumed, their technology, their knowledge, their very essence absorbed into the Hunters' collective. That's why you were running," Sarah realized. "They seeded your civilization." "No," Val Wren's patterns pulsed grimly. "We refused their gifts. We saw what happened to those who accepted them." The Hunters had never encountered a species that rejected their benevolence. They took it as an offense to their divine purpose. A violent shudder ran through the Luminarch's hull. On the holographic displays, Sarah could see the Hunter vessel, a massive construct of black metal and pulsing red energy, moving into an attack position. Its design was brutally functional, like a predator stripped down to nothing but teeth and muscle. "Defenses are at 18% capacity," Vexna reported. "We cannot survive a direct confrontation." Sarah's mind raced. "The outpost, Sierra 7. It's got a quantum communications array. We can call for help. Your people would stand against the Hunters." Val Wren's patterns showed skepticism. "They have destroyed civilizations far more advanced than humanity." "Maybe," Sarah agreed, "but humanity's got two things going for it. One, we're really good at improvising. And two, we're stubborn as hell when someone tells us we can't do something." She pulled up the ship's sensor displays, her mind interfacing more smoothly with the alien technology. "The Hunters haven't detected Sierra 7 yet. The same stealth field that hid you all these years is masking its presence. If I can get back to my pod, I can reach the outpost before they realize it's there." "Too dangerous," Val Wren's patterns flashed. "The Hunters will detect any movement between vessels." A smile crossed Sarah's face. "That's assuming they can see the pod at all. This ship's got active camouflage systems, right? Can we extend that field to my pod?" Vexna's patterns showed surprise, then appreciation. "It would require significant power diversion from other systems." "Do it," Val Wren commanded. "Council member Vexna, continue awakening our people. Sarah Chen, you have shown wisdom and courage. But know this, if you bring your people into this conflict, you make them targets for the Hunters. Forever." Sarah's hands were already moving through the power redistribution sequences. "With respect, Council member, I think they already are. The Hunters want to test civilizations. Fine. Let's show them humanity's got some tests of our own." The next few minutes were a blur of activity. While Vexna managed the continuing revival sequences, Sarah and Val Wren worked to extend the Luminarch's stealth field to her maintenance pod. Through the ship's sensors, they could see the Hunter vessel moving in a precise search pattern, its sensors probing the space around them. "They're using gravimetric detection," Val Wren observed. "They know we're here, but not precisely where." "Then we use that," Sarah said, an idea forming. "Can you generate a false gravitational signature? Make them think you're trying to run." Val Wren's patterns showed understanding. "Draw their attention away from your vector to the outpost." "Yes, but we will have to drop our stealth field to make the signature convincing." "How long can you hold out in a direct confrontation?" "Perhaps 20 minutes before our defenses fail." Sarah checked the distance to Sierra 7. At maximum thrust, she could make it in 15 minutes. "That's all I need. Just try not to get blown up before I get back." Val Wren's patterns shifted to what Sarah was learning to recognize as amusement. "We have evaded destruction for 3,000 years, Sarah Chen. We can manage 20 minutes more." Sarah made her way back to her pod, her mind racing with plans and contingencies. As she settled into the pilot's seat, she opened a direct neural link with the Luminarch's systems, a capability she hadn't even known she possessed an hour ago. "Ready," she communicated to Valren. "May fortune favor the bold," the alien tactician responded. "Beginning distraction sequence. Now." The Luminarch's stealth field dropped as it generated a massive gravitational pulse. The hunter vessel immediately turned, its weapon systems powering up. Sarah watched her sensors as energy beams began cutting through space where the Luminarch had been moments before, the ancient ship's maneuverability belying its size. Using the firefight as cover, Sarah fired up her pod's engines and slipped away from the Luminarch, cloaked in its stealth field. As she pushed her small craft to its limits, she could only hope that Director Morrison had already called for reinforcements, because in 15 minutes she was going to have to convince humanity to go to war with an enemy they'd never known existed, alongside allies they'd just met, using technology they barely understood. Just another day at the office for a frontier mechanic. Director Morrison's face on the emergency broadcast screen had gone through a fascinating range of expressions in the 3 minutes Sarah had spent explaining the situation. Now, as she finished, he just looked tired. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," he said, running a hand through his gray hair. "You've found an alien ship full of refugees from a civilization being hunted by a species that treats genocide as a spiritual calling, and now you want me to commit an act of war by helping them." "More or less," Sarah confirmed, her maintenance pod's engines cooling down from the mad dash back to Sierra 7. "Though I'd argue the hunters committed the act of war first. We're just choosing a side. Chen, we're a maintenance outpost. We've got one defense frigate with a crew of 30, and our most powerful weapon is designed to shoot down meteors." "Actually, sir," Sarah's fingers flew across her pod's interface, uploading data from the Luminarch. "We've got more than that. The ship's systems have been teaching me about their technology. Their stealth systems, their weapons, they're compatible with human tech. We can adapt them. Fast." Morrison's eyes narrowed as he studied the streaming data. "Even if that's true, we'd need months too." "Sir," Sarah interrupted, "we've got about 12 minutes before the Luminarch's defenses fail. Everything after that is academic unless we act now." The director was silent for a long moment, then opened a channel to the station's defense frigate. "Captain Rivera, how quickly can you get your ship ready for combat?" A crisp female voice responded, "We're already running combat prep, sir." Chen's transmission came through general channels. "My crew's volunteering to fight." Sarah felt a surge of pride in her fellow humans. Morrison must have felt it too, because his expression softened slightly. "Right then," he said. "Chen, get your pod docked. Rivera, as soon as she's aboard, take us in. I'll send out a general distress call to any UEF ships in range." He managed a grim smile. "Let's go make some history." The next 10 minutes were organized chaos. Sarah sprinted through Sierra 7's corridors to the frigate's docking bay, her mind still linked to the Luminarch's systems, feeding tactical data directly to Captain Rivera. Through the alien ship's sensors, she could see the battle raging. The hunters had dropped their pretense of searching and were now hammering the Luminarch with concentrated energy beams. The ancient vessel's defenses were holding, but barely. Valren was proving to be a brilliant tactician, using the ship's superior maneuverability to stay just ahead of the worst attacks, but they were running out of space to dodge. "Their attack pattern isn't random," Sarah announced as she burst onto the frigate's bridge. Captain Rivera, a compact woman with steel-gray eyes, nodded to her without looking away from her tactical display. "I noticed," Rivera said. "They're herding the alien ship toward that debris field, trying to limit their movement options. The Luminarch's given me access to their weapon specs," Sarah said, moving to an auxiliary console. "Their main weapons are based on quantum phase disruption. They target the space between atoms, literally pulling matter apart. Can we adapt something like that to our railguns?" Sarah's fingers flew across the console. "Better. We can use the railguns to deliver packets of quantum-disrupted space. The Luminarch is transmitting the specifications now." Rivera smiled. "Time to weapons adaptation. 3 minutes. They've got to hold out that long first." Rivera nodded toward her main display. The Hunter vessel had scored a direct hit on the Luminarch's port side, causing its stealth field to flicker. Sarah opened her neural link to maximum capacity. "Val Ren, we're coming in. 3 minutes. Can you hold?" The alien tactician's response was strained. "2 of our primary shield generators have failed. We are rerouting power from non-essential systems." But another impact rocked the ship. "Make it 2 minutes, Sarah Chen." "Engineering," Rivera called out. "Redirect all power to the weapons systems." "Chen, I need those adaptations now." Sarah's world narrowed to the stream of data flowing through her mind. The Luminarch's quantum weapon designs were elegant in their complexity, but they were designed for a more advanced technological base. She had to strip them down, find the essential principles that could work with human tech. "Got it," she exclaimed after what felt like hours but had been less than 2 minutes. "Uploading weapon modifications now. Captain, you'll only get 1 shot per railgun before they burn out. The physics involved, well, they weren't meant to do this. 1 shot's all we need." Rivera's hands moved across her command console. "All hands, battle stations. This is going to get interesting." The frigate dropped out of stealth mode directly behind the Hunter vessel, its modified railguns glowing with an impossible light. The enemy ship began to turn, but it was too late. "Fire," Rivera commanded. 6 railguns fired simultaneously, their projectiles leaving trails of distorted space in their wake. They struck the Hunter vessel's hull in a precise pattern, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then reality itself seemed to scream. The points of impact began to expand, the space between the ship's atoms being torn apart by forces they were never meant to contain. The Hunter vessel's shields, designed to stop energy and matter, were useless against weapons that targeted space itself. Great chunks of the enemy ship began to dissolve into constituent atoms, its weapon systems flickering and dying. The Hunters, caught completely by surprise by this primitive species wielding quantum weapons, began to retreat. But Val Ren wasn't finished. The Luminarch, its remaining weapons powered by energy diverted from its failing shields, launched a final barrage. The quantum disruption effects from both attacks began to interact, creating a cascade failure in the Hunter vessel's structure. "All hands, brace for shockwave," Rivera ordered as the enemy ship began to break apart. The Hunter vessel didn't explode so much as collapse in on itself, the space around it twisting in ways that human eyes weren't meant to process. When it was over, there was nothing left but scattered atoms and distorted space. "Status report," Rivera demanded. "Railguns are completely burnt out," engineering reported. "Hull integrity at 82% from spatial distortion effects. But we're alive." Sarah checked her neural link. The Luminarch has taken heavy damage. Their shields are gone, and they've got multiple hull breaches, but their core systems are intact. They'll survive. A new signal caught her attention. Ships dropping out of FTL at the edge of the system. For a moment, her heart stopped, thinking more Hunters had arrived. Then she recognized the signatures. United Earth Fleet vessels, responding to Morrison's distress call. Leading them was the UEF Harbinger, the most advanced battlecruiser in human space. "This is Admiral Chen," a familiar voice transmitted on all frequencies. "Sierra 7, Luminarch, what's your status?" Sarah couldn't help but laugh. "Hey, Dad. You're late to the party, but you're just in time to help us change the course of human history." Because she knew this was just the beginning. The Hunters wouldn't stop with one defeat, but now humanity had new allies, new technology, and a chance to prove itself on a galactic stage. And Sarah Chen, frontier mechanic turned first contact specialist, was ready to help lead the way. The UEF Harbinger's conference room was crowded with an unprecedented gathering. human military leaders, scientists, and 3 members of the Luminarch's Defense Council, including Val Wren. Sarah sat between the two groups, still serving as a bridge between species, both literally and figuratively. Admiral Chen, her father, stood at the head of the table, his usually stern expression softened by wonder as he studied the holographic display showing the hunter vessel's destruction. "The weapons adaptation was brilliant," he said, "but we can't count on surprising them like that again. According to the Luminarch's data, there could be dozens of Hunter world ships out there. 53 that we know of." Val Wren's patterns pulsed with grim certainty, each capable of destroying a planetary civilization. "They will come, Admiral. Our victory here will draw them like decay attracts scavengers." Sarah leaned forward. "Then we use that. The hunters think in terms of testing civilizations, right? They're going to want to understand how a primitive species like us managed to destroy one of their ships." A valid point. A new voice joined the conversation. Dr. Elena Santos, Earth's leading genotechnologist, had been virtually attending the meeting. Her hologram flickered as she gestured to the sensor data. "The quantum weapon adaptation shouldn't have been possible with our current technology. The hunters will want to know how we did it. And that gives us time," Sarah concluded. "Time we can use to prepare." The room erupted in overlapping conversations as military officers and scientists began proposing strategies. Sarah noticed Val Wren's skin patterns showing what she now recognized as concern. "Something wrong?" she asked privately through their neural link. "Your people adapt quickly," Val Wren responded. "Perhaps too quickly. We have seen species rush to embrace advanced technology before. It rarely ends well." Before Sarah could respond, the conference room's alarms blared. A junior officer burst in, face pale. "Multiple FTL signatures detected," he reported. 7 hunter vessels just appeared at the edge of the Taw City colony system. The room fell silent. Taw City was humanity's largest off-world colony, home to over 3 million people. Admiral Chen's voice cut through the tension. "How long to get a battle group there?" 4 hours at maximum FTL, someone reported. "The colony's defenses won't last 10 minutes against 7 hunter ships. Unless they're not looking for a fight," Sarah said slowly, an idea forming. "Val Wren, you said the hunters seed civilizations with technology before testing them. What if they're not there to attack?" Val Wren's patterns shifted rapidly as he caught her meaning. "They wish to understand. To study. They will offer gifts, advanced technology, knowledge. A trap," Admiral Chen concluded, "but one we might be able to use." "Sarah, what are you thinking?" Sarah's fingers danced across the conference room's interface, pulling up technical schematics. "The Luminarch's neural interface technology let me understand their systems almost instantly. What if we could do the same thing in reverse? Make our technology look more advanced than it is?" Dr. Santos' hologram leaned forward. "Create a technological facade. It's possible. The quantum weapon modification already demonstrates we can blend human and Luminarch technology in unexpected ways. We need more than a facade," Val Wren interjected. "The hunters will probe deeply. They will want to understand how humans achieved this advancement so quickly. Then we give them a story they'll believe," Sarah said. "One that plays into their own beliefs about evolution and testing." "Dad, how fast can we get a diplomatic team to Taw City?" The next few hours were a blur of preparation. While the UDF fleet mobilized in secret, Sarah worked with Dr. Santos and the Luminarch's engineers to modify a small group of human ships. They didn't need to actually be more advanced. They just needed to appear that way to hunter sensors. The plan was audacious. Instead of running from the hunters' gifts, they would accept them. But everything the hunters gave them would be analyzed by the Luminarch's technology, searching for hidden threats and tracking methods. "It's a dangerous game," Admiral Chen said privately to Sarah as they prepared to depart. "If they realize we're deceiving them." "They already think they're deceiving us," Sarah pointed out. "The best way to fool someone is to let them think they're the ones doing the fooling." The Admiral smiled slightly. When did my daughter become so strategic? I learned from the best, Sarah grinned, both human and alien. But as they boarded their respective ships, Sarah felt the weight of what they were attempting. They were about to engage in a galaxy-spanning game of deception against a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of technological manipulation. The Harbinger and its escort fleet emerged from FTL on the outskirts of the Ta City system. Through the neural link, Sarah could see the hunter vessels, each one larger than the ship they'd destroyed at Sierra 7. They hung in space like patient predators, waiting. They're broadcasting. Communications reported. Text only, multiple languages. They're offering. Congratulations. Sarah read the message and felt a chill. The hunters weren't just offering technology. They were offering recognition. They wanted to elevate humanity to what they called the conclave of tested species. It was a perfect trap, designed to appeal to human pride and ambition. And thanks to the Luminarch's warning, they knew exactly what accepting would mean. Send our response, Admiral Chen ordered. Tell them we're honored to accept their invitation. As the message was transmitted, Sarah shared a private communication with Val Ren aboard the Luminarch, ready to help humanity fail their test. The alien tactician's response held both amusement and determination. Indeed, let us show the hunters that sometimes the most interesting tests are the ones where nothing is quite what it seems. The hunter vessels began moving closer, preparing to make their formal presentation of gifts to humanity. But in the shadows of nearby gas giants, cloaked UEF ships were moving into position, carrying weapons modified by Luminarch technology. The real test was about to begin, and this time, humanity was writing the questions. 8 days into humanity's greatest deception, Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the Ta City Research Station, watching hunter engineers install what they called a stellar manipulation core into the colony's power grid. Through her neural link with the Luminarch's systems, she could see the hidden programs buried in the alien technology, hooks and backdoors that would have given the hunters control over the entire colony. They're very thorough, Val Ren observed through their private channel. The alien tactician was aboard the cloaked Luminarch, hidden in the system's asteroid belt. Every gift is both a weapon and a chain. The network isolation systems are holding, Sarah responded, watching the hunter engineers through augmented vision. They think they're seeing our whole grid, but it's all just a shadow network Dr. Santos designed. The real systems are untouched. The past week had been a masterclass in technological sleight of hand. The hunters had presented humanity with increasingly advanced technology, each time scanning human systems to see how they integrated it. Thanks to the Luminarch's warnings, every integration was a carefully crafted illusion. But Sarah knew they were running out of time. Movement in the outer system. Val Ren reported suddenly. 5 more hunter vessels just dropped out of FTL. These are warships, Sarah Chen. They're not maintaining the pretense of diplomatic vessels. Sarah's heart rate spiked, but she kept her exterior calm as she watched the hunter engineers. How long? Minutes. They're moving fast. A pause. Sarah, they're powering weapons. This was what they'd been waiting for and dreading. The hunters had decided to spring their trap, not realizing they were the ones being trapped. Sarah opened a channel to Admiral Chen. Dad, we've got company. Looks like the hunters got impatient. Understood. Her father's voice was steady. All ships, execute Operation Eclipse. Dr. Santos, activate the network. Across the Ta City system, hidden UEF vessels began powering up, their systems now integrated with copied and modified hunter technology. The gifts the hunters had given them had been carefully studied, replicated, and improved upon with the Luminarch's help. The hunter engineers around Sarah suddenly stiffened as their scans detected the power spikes. One of them turned to her, its translator converting its harmonic language to English. "Your species has disappointed us," it said. "We had hoped you would prove worthy of elevation." Sarah smiled. "Oh, I think we're about to exceed your expectations." The observation deck's windows automatically polarized as brilliant light filled the system. The hidden UEF ships had activated their weapons, hybrid designs that combined human ingenuity, hunter power, and luminar precision. Quantum disruption fields merged with conventional physics in ways that defied the hunter's understanding of technological progression. "Impossible," the hunter engineer said, its translator struggling to convey its shock. "These advances, you cannot have developed them so quickly." "Here's the thing about humans," Sarah said as UEF Marines entered the observation deck, weapons trained on the hunter engineers. "We're really good at learning from history, including other species' history." The space battle unfolding outside was unlike anything in human records. The hunter warships, expecting to find primitive defenses augmented by their own carefully limited gifts, instead faced an array of weapons that turned their own technology against them. The Luminarch emerged from hiding, its ancient weapons supplementing the human fleet's assault. Val Ren's tactical genius, combined with Admiral Chen's strategic innovation, had the hunter fleet surrounded and confused. But the hunters weren't finished. Their warships began linking together, forming a geometric pattern that Sarah recognized from the Luminarch's historical records. "They're preparing a dimensional fracture." Val Ren's warning carried real fear. "They mean to tear this system apart rather than admit defeat." Sarah's mind raced. The hunters' desperation move would kill everyone, including their own engineers on the station. They truly did see everything as a test, even their own survival. Then she saw it. The pattern in their ship formation, the way their energy fields linked. It wasn't so different from the quantum weapon modification she developed at Sierra 7. "Dad," she called out, her fingers flying across her neural interface, "I'm sending you new targeting coordinates. The hunters' ships are linked. If we hit them with synchronized quantum disruption bursts, their own energy network will transmit the effect through their entire formation." Admiral Chen finished. "All ships retarget according to these coordinates. Fire on my mark." The hunter ship's energy buildup reached critical levels. Space itself began to distort around their geometric formation. Fire. Multiple quantum disruption beams struck the hunter formation at precise points. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like a chain reaction, the disruption effect began cascading through their linked energy fields. The hunters had designed their ships to share power and information. Now that same network transmitted their destruction. One by one, their vessels began to break apart, their matter scattered across dimensions. In the observation deck, the hunter engineers watched their fleet's destruction in silence. "You could have simply destroyed us at the beginning," the lead engineer said finally. "Why this deception?" "Because we wanted to understand you," Sarah replied. "And we wanted you to understand us. Humanity doesn't want to destroy other species. We want to learn from them, grow with them. But we will fight if we have to." The engineer was quiet for a long moment. Perhaps we have failed our own test." Hours later, Sarah stood in the Harbinger's conference room again. But this time the mood was different. The surviving hunter engineers had provided unprecedented information about their species' locations and capabilities. More importantly, they had transmitted a message to their world ships. Humanity and their allies were not to be tested further. It won't last forever. Val Ren's patterns showed concern. Some hunter factions will see this as proof that humanity needs to be eliminated entirely. "Let them come," Admiral Chen said firmly. "We've proven we can stand against them, and we're stronger together than alone." Sarah looked around the room, at her father, at Val Ren, at the faces of humans and aliens working together to forge something new. "That's what the hunters never understood," she said. "The best test of a species isn't how well they can fight. It's how well they can adapt, cooperate, grow." She turned to the window, watching as repair ships from both species worked together to heal the damage from the battle. In the distance, the Luminarch's sleek form moved gracefully alongside human vessels, no longer hiding in the shadows. "So what now?" she asked. Valren's patterns showed what she now recognized as hope. "Now, Saracen, we build something new, something neither of our species could have created alone." "Together, then," Sarah said, and both human and alien agreed. Because in the end, that was humanity's greatest strength, not the ability to fight, but the ability to turn enemies into allies, to learn, to grow, and to reach for the stars not alone, but hand in hand with those who had once been strangers. The real test had never been about survival. It had been about proving that different species could do more than just survive. They could thrive together. And humanity had passed that test with flying colors.